Thinking about self-publishing and don't know where to start? Join the Spa Girls each week for 30 minutes of honest advice, tips, and resources. I'm Trudy J, and I am here with Cheryl Phipps.
Hi there.
Shah Barrett.
Hi.
And Wendy Vella.
Hello. Why am I always last?
It's just the order. I can see you. I forget your name. I have to look at the picture, and Cheryl's next to me, and so I go.
Order of popularity. Let's not.
It's
just okay, all right, so fine. It's the order of popularity. I like you least. Okay.
Doesn't it segue nicely into what we're talking about today?
Yes. Well, it would if we were talking about paranoia, but we're not. We are talking about fear. We kind of decided that it's going to be fear of hitting the publish button, like getting actually out there into the world, but we're going to talk about other fears as well, like just fears that we've kind of seen in the writing world
and experienced
obviously. We're all bundles.
I think it's fair to say that Spa Girls are filled with neuroses, and we're proud of it.
Yes,
there's nothing like a few neuroses to get you through the day.
We embrace our fear and live with
it. So Shah, do you want to quickly talk about the Positive Writer, Scared Writer blog?
So this is, I really, really like this site. It's called positivewriter.com, and there was a particular blog post on there. It was actually a guest blog post by somebody by the name of Harrison Demchick, which is just an awesome name.
Totally awesome.
And I'm apologies, Harrison, if I get the gender wrong, but I assume it's a chap who wrote about two kinds of scared writers. And he said, during my weekly writing group, I've been working on a screenplay that begins, oddly enough, with a weekly writing group. And the main characters are a pair of best friends named Mindy and Lane. And what I've realised during the development of the story is that Mindy and Lane represent two particular kinds of scared writers. And they're the kinds that we all see in our writing groups and workshops, and there's a very good chance that we're one of them, or in our case probably both of them, but anyhow. So the first type is
paranoid much.
Mindy is a writer who doesn't finish. Now this is totally me. She has ideas, but she never really pursues them because she sees every obstacle as a sign that she isn't good enough. Oh, that hurts.
Right to the chest.
Cut
and if she did push on and did finish a draft of something, it would be bad, and then she would know that she could never be good enough. Again, second knife to the heart. So she comes up with ideas, abandons them, and then struggles on with the next one. Like, this is like super confronting, but just go with me here, people. So the next type of scared writer that he talks about is Lane, is the writer who doesn't fight. He has finished a manuscript, but he doesn't want to do anything with it. It's the creative accomplishment that matters. But really, he fears what's coming next. In this case, he talks about agents and publishers and rejection. In our case, we'd add on to that self-publishing, learning how to self-publish, learning all that. Yeah. Or he fears the marketing battle any author, traditionally published or self-published, must face. Maybe at heart, he too doesn't think he's good enough, so he hides behind the pretense of contentment and never works for his dreams.
So he doesn't. Imagine finishing the book and not being able to do anything with it.
I just thought that was such an insightful blog post. So insightful that I made everybody read it. We're going to obviously link to it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But
I didn't read it because I'm the rebel in the group.
Trudy doesn't.
She's a rebel. But I'm the rebel, not you.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why you read it.
You're so used to doing
what Shah tells you. You just automatically do it now.
I wish she did. I wish she would. That's some kind of utopia that has not existed yet, Trudy. But
that's for another day.
Yeah, it's for another day. But look, it is a great post. We are going to put in our show notes. Like I said, it's positivewriter.com/scared writer. But we ended up talking about this quite a bit, and we think there's more than the two types of scared writer, don't we?
Yeah. But do you want, before we go on to the other ones that we're talking about, should we talk a little bit about Mindy and Lane? Like,
Why not? Let's go into Mindy
let's
and
delve
Lane.
a little bit deeper.
Like,
So,
Yeah.
like we know them personally.
oh, we know.
Yeah.
Lane, I
and-
assumed was going to be a girl, so I was a bit shocked when it was a he, actually.
Yeah.
But
Well,
anyway,
I think of
apparently
Lane
Lane is.
from Gilmore Girls as Lane,
Yes,
and
that's
so. But
right.
anyway, in this case, he's saying Lane is
A man,
a
yeah.
man. So whatever.
Okay, so Mindy doesn't finish because she doesn't think that she's good enough.
Mm.
So that's a scary. So it's a scared writer. Are there any other aspects to that, like any other personal anecdotes, Shah, that you want to talk about? Not putting any pressure on you,
Yeah,
but
no pressure.
you did talk about knife to the heart.
I think this one is that. So it can be also cloaked in that you're not. You haven't got enough for a series, for example. If you've learned something about self-publishing, you've heard us saying, you've heard many guests saying, look, to really amp your chances up of doing well, you have a series. You publish a series of some times. And so I think if you're Lane, which I am,
Mindy.
Mindy, sorry, I'm not Lane, I'm Mindy. If you're Mindy and it's the fear of finishing, you might actually finish that first book, but you might think, I haven't got enough for there's not enough legs in this, idea. So I think you can actually really self-sabotage yourself that way, as well as overthinking.
Well, overthinking to the max there, because
Overthinking
basically
to the max.
it's about writing the book first and foremost, right? I mean, the series, if you haven't finished a book and you're thinking series, that's not going to help you finish the book. What you need to do is you need to focus on just finishing the book.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you if you've been listening to us for a while, you've got this knowledge in the back of your head that is all about series. So that kind of adds, because it's almost like it's a sabotage cloaked in reality, which is cloaked in truth, which is the series thing, but you're using it against yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I
totally
think
get
that's
that.
what you got to watch when you're Mindy, and probably Lane, I don't know.
No.
Is Mork and Mindy.
Showing our age.
I know. Shh, don't show your age. Shh. Let's not talk about shows from the 70s.
Okay.
So if you're Mindy and you're looking for, it's almost like you're looking for excuses. You're telling yourself these very logical stories about why it is that you're not finishing. So it might be that you're not finishing because, there was this other thing that came up and then I had to do that and I couldn't write the book, or like those sorts of things, or
that's not popular anymore. I was writing Werewolves and suddenly now it's something
clearly
another
not
type of
popular.
chapter. So why am I wasting my time?
Yeah. And those are all stories. Those are all things that you're telling yourself, and the core thing you've got to go back to and look at is, why am I not finishing the book, and what is the fear? And I mean, I think all writers have it. Like I don't know, maybe they don't, maybe there's some super confident writers out there, but that fear of not being good enough, of the fear of kind of having this product and putting it out there and it's still not enough. Like, at
Does
least
it ever go away though?
I don't think so.
I don't think it does. I think
it lessens. I think it, a sense of belief, and also in a particular story. Some stories, are just better than others. It's just, they can't all be perfect or the best thing you've ever written.
And actually, I think that's a really good point, Cher, because I think perfect is usually the enemy of getting something done, isn't it?
Exactly.
So, and I think for a lot of us Mindies, often perfectionism is a massive, massive issue as well. And
when you don't finish, you can still live in a world where it might be good or it might not be good.
Well, there's
even if you
possibility.
fear it, there's still that possibility. Once you've published it and it's out there in the world, it's a little bit more concrete. No one's buying it. That must mean I'm terrible. So there's that kind of, if I live here in this kind of world where nothing's, where the possibility is still there,
I might finish it or I might not.
It might be the best thing that's ever been written, and it might be the next J.K. Rowling, and it might be okay. But as soon as you become concrete, as soon as you press the button, as soon as you go to the next stage, that's gone.
Instead of thinking that if I do this and it appears to not be as good as what it could be, I can fix it, which would be a far better approach to it, I think.
Or even just that it's the first step in a process. Like, take a little bit of the emotion out of it and just say,
I think change what you feel.
The first step in my self-publishing journey is going to be to hit publish on this book, and then the second step is going to be to write the next book. You know, like don't go, oh, it means I'm a terrible person, I'll never be good enough if this book isn't the world's most best-selling book ever. You know,
I don't want to fail.
It's a very black and white viewpoint, right? Like it's either,
very black and white.
It's either success or fail. Yeah.
And I think
taking it back even further than that, though, is finishing. You know, I mean, you're talking about publishing, but a lot of people have an issue with actually just finishing a book because of the pressure that's on. There is so much knowledge out there now about you should be doing this, and people start with their Facebook groups and they start with their, you know, rah, rah, rah. And we're all avoiding the simple fact, and that is that the book needs to be written.
Yeah.
Bottom line, nuts and bolts, book needs to be written. So you have to demystify that and say, right, well, how am I going to get this book finished? Let's just chunk it down and go, well, actually, this is the most important thing. Everything else is extraneous until I get to that point.
Yeah.
And I think that has to be the core. For some people, that's the real issue.
It's a huge issue.
I mean, we know a lot of people who've approached us and talked to us that they can't finish a book.
Yeah.
No.
And I think for me, one of the biggest things I've learned about doing this podcast and talking to all the amazing authors that we have talked to is I've learned, because I was always under the impression that because I found writing so hard, it wasn't what I was meant to do.
Yeah.
Or I didn't have the chops to do it. What I have learned, I've corrected that, because maybe it's not necessarily on the recordings, but certainly when we talk off, you know, after or whatever, or get to warm them up, chat, you know, just so we don't scare people off, we try and, you know, chat initially. That a lot of writers really, like, they question what they're writing, they question their ability to write. Like, they could be on their 45th book and they're still not feeling comfortable. For me, that was this massive revelation because I genuinely thought that if it was hard, it was because it wasn't something I could do. I really genuinely thought that. And so, you know, if you're feeling the same, take it from me.
Yeah.
Most of them feel that way.
Stop being really hard on yourself too. You know, like, it is not failure, because everything else you do in your life, you're well, not everything, but you're succeeding at so many things.
Yeah.
This is just something you haven't got to yet. And it's not a success or failure issue. And I think that is what people are putting on themselves, that burden of success and failure.
Yeah.
Writing,
it's going back to what Trudy said, that black and white thinking, isn't it?
Exactly. It's like, it's okay. You know, you guys are doing really good in your life. Whatever's going on, this is just another part of it. Let's just work our way through it, you know, take the pressure off.
It's also that, I don't know, when you go through school now, they talk about the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. And I think that Carol Dweck, she talks about that as well. And it's the...
Can you imagine having that when we went to school? That was going to be...
No. So, and this is something that I think about a lot, and I talk to Zoe a lot, who's 9, and it's the idea that because kids don't like kids want to be good at something, and if they're not good at it, they don't want to do it anymore. And I'm constantly having this conversation with Zoe, like, no, the first time you do something, you probably won't be amazing at it. But you practice and you get better and better, and that's how you know. And so it's that same kind of thing. And the fixed mindset says there's people are talented. And what you've got is what you've got. So it's like there's this intellect is here, and you get your intelligence test, and that says that you're this smart and that you're talented at this, and this is the only thing that you can ever do because and it's kind of a little bit of what you're saying with the writing, you know, that comes easy to some people and therefore they should be doing that versus people it comes hard for. Whereas actually the growth mindset says that you can change your intelligence level, that you can change your ability, your talent levels at everything. And it's just a process, and it's a matter of working through it, and you can keep going on it. And you can always improve that. And it's been shown, like there's this idea that intelligence is fixed. Like you do this intelligence test and that's your number and that's always your number. And it's not true. And they've proven that it's not true. And even the dude that invented the intelligence test didn't mean for them to be used in the way that you use now. It's not a fixed thing. So, and you constantly can be learning and improving and changing what you're good at and what, you know, and how you are in the world. So just remember that, like, even if you are at the beginning of your writing process and you're worried about finishing your book and you think maybe it's not good enough, just know that it's a process and you can keep going and you can keep writing, and always know that your next book that you write will always be better than the one that you just wrote. And it's, you know, and the book that you're putting out is the best book that you could possibly write at this time, and then move on to the next book, which will be better. and the next book, which will be better, you know.
I think it's quite important to know what you want to get out of this and what you want to achieve. If you really want to achieve writing a book, even if you're not going to publish it, then you have to take those steps, and each step is actually a challenge, and each step is something that you should celebrate achieving, because by the end of all of those steps you have a book. And like Trudy says, it will be the best book that you can write at that point in time.
Yeah, exactly.
Going forward, you know, it can only improve, because it's like anything. It's like doing an outside job that we've all done. You did the best that you could then, and you probably got better at it. And you didn't start off as a CEO or even, you know, as I don't know, a manager of a department. You have had to work through working on the floor, learning the trade. That's exactly what this is like.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that is a really good point, in that there's a mystery or a myth around writing, that this person puts out one book and suddenly it's an instant bestseller and it goes on to win all the awards, and they only ever wrote one thing, and they just fell out of their brains and onto the page. When actually, if you go back and look at those people, often they've been writing for years and years and years, and maybe it's not their first book, it's just the first book that made it big or whatever, you know. There's those kind of stories, and I think
everyone does their apprenticeship.
And I think it's the same for writing, but we don't realize it. Like when you're first starting out, you think it's gonna, you know, you don't have to work your way up to department head and start out at as the checkout kid or whatever, you know. Like you know that you have to do that in other professions. Like, you're not, the brain surgeon doesn't start out first day on the job as a brain surgeon, you know. They have to, yeah, I hope not, but you know, every other occupation you wouldn't expect to suddenly go to the top, right? But for some reason there's this myth around writing that says this first book might be the best thing that's ever been written, and I have to, you know, like, don't put that pressure on yourself.
But I think success slaps us in the face these days. It's everywhere, you know, and so we expect that success ourselves. You go, you turn on the TV or the internet or whatever, it's people succeeding and, you know, beautiful people everywhere, and, you know, and all this sort of carry on. That's not reality. And that's something that we need to understand, I think.
I think it's about your definition of success. I think that's the thing. Like, it's your success could be you hitting publish and publishing your first book, and A, having finished writing your first book, and B, getting it up there on the platform and figuring out how to use the platform. Those are successful things. Those will make you, you know, that's awesome. That's a goal achieved. That's success. And yeah, just creating your success parameters into something that's a little bit, you know, is part of what you're going to do. You're not going to make $100 million on your first book.
Yeah. Sorry, but you're not. I just
Or
wondering if we could just
30th.
talk about a couple of things. I was thinking of the Mindies that are listening to this, that are struggling to finish, and Cher's already touched on this, which is like kind of defining your reasons, really, is kind of keeping that at the center is important as well, defining your own level. For me, what really helped was bringing the word count back. So actually starting to finishing a short novella at 25,000, finishing a novella at 35,000. Like, bring the bar down a little bit to the finish line. It's okay when you're starting out. If you don't want to start the race, it's okay to do a shorter sprint than it is going, because it is really hard to write a long novel, like it is, like so bring the finish line a little closer and just get the feeling of crossing the finish line, because once that feeling's done, then that will carry you, like it proves to you, then you've got like proof positive that you can write the end. And I think if you're that person and stuck, it's far more important to write to the end than it is, in my case, I've literally had folders full of 3 chapters and a synopsis that I used to submit to Harlequin, like folders and folders and folders of them. In fact, I found them the other day and then I threw them all out. But anyway,
You threw them out. Oh my God,
threw them all out.
Really good ideas.
No,
Wow.
the ideas were there, but
You should have passed them on to me. I might have found some.
No. But so I guess what I'm saying is bring the finish line forward. The other thing that I think has helped a lot is accountability, and whether it's to an online group or just like a writing coach or somebody else, or just a little bit of accountability really helps, particularly if just know what kind of accountability that works for you. You know, the carrot or the stick method is really good as well.
Puffy stickers
help too. Really old rewards.
It's a dopamine hit that you get when you get to put a sticker up, a positive dopamine hit that pokes you.
And the other thing, I mean, Trudy and I probably very in sync on this. We listen to a lot, and I know the other girls do too, but probably Trudy and I take it up a notch, which is in terms of the podcast that we listen to, and a lot of them are very much about overcoming resistance, whether it's to exercise or to write or whatever. I mean, it's still resistance, and which Stephen Pressfield talks so beautifully about in the book The War of Art, which we'll also link in the show notes. But and just listening to those, I find that super helpful as well, because when you're hearing, like Wendy says, on Instagram you see the end results, you see the success. What you don't see is the freaking out prior to that photo or that whatever, or that finished book. And so I think listening to podcasts that talk about, like one of them is How to Quit Your Day Job is one with Kathy Heller, is amazing. And it's not just, I mean, it's kind of got a slightly disingenuous title in that it's about people following their dreams, whether it's to start a bakery or to write a book, and it's consistently all about the mostly about the self-sabotage and the false beliefs and all of that they overcame in order to get to the finish line. So that's what I'm trying to say there. There's a whole lot of other podcasts we've put on Amira Alvarez. And I think also that I'm going to write about this in the upcoming Writer's Life post next week, but it's actually gamifying it for people. Like, it's the old carrot and stick thing, but actually gamifying the word count. A lot of it is actually just getting the words down is massive, and not rewriting the same paragraph many times. And so if you gamify it, like using something like Write or Die or words for the words, that can kind of, it's weird, it kind of somehow retrains your brain to go for the number of words rather than the perfect word.
If you're a little bit competitive, that's kind of what I do. I'm like, if I'm doing a Pomodoro, like a 25-minute, and I'll do a few of them in a day, I'll see how many words I wrote and I write it down, and then I try and beat that number so that I'm always, like it pushes me on, it eggs me on. So it's a gamification thing, definitely.
So I feel like we've probably covered Mindy. Should we go into Lane?
Yeah,
do you want me to just repeat a little bit about Lane? So Lane was the writer who doesn't fight. Basically, you've got your book, but then it doesn't go anywhere.
It's about the art. I don't care about money. Yeah. I just did it because I wanted to know that I could publish a book.
That's maybe
Am I being a bit mean?
A little bit.
Okay,
but I mean,
stop that.
There are those people out there that just want to finish a book and, want memoirs and that. But
I sometimes feel though that might be part of it. That might be the story they're telling themselves to protect themselves from the fear of success or the fear of putting it out there and having others judge them.
Potentially, but it also could just be legitimately, I have this in me, I need to get it down, and there it is now, I've written it. And it's absolutely fine, because I mean, I've written short stories and poems for myself that I will never publish. But
okay, so we're not talking people like that then. We're talking about people who are scared.
People that want to publish.
That want to publish.
But aren't, and the story they're telling themselves is that
I think there's a number of stories. I think one of them is they don't really want to muck around with icky marketing stuff, which is what they're going to have to do, whether they're traditionally or self-published. Maybe they don't want to have to go face rejection if they are going the traditional route from agents or publishers. If they're going the self-publishing route, then maybe they don't want to face rejection by readers. What would happen to their whole self if they put that book up that they finished and nobody buys it?
Or maybe they never told their family or their friends that they were actually writing, and some stuff in there might be a bit too personal, or expose themselves. Whatever. I mean, I remember not wanting to publish under my name and until my mum passed away, and then I didn't mind so much because I didn't really want her to read the naughty bits.
I think that's I think there's a lot of people that feel exactly the same way, or maybe they don't, the subject matter that they're dealing with is something that they're not comfortable, or they would worry that their family would criticize, or loved ones.
So how does that change then?
Yeah.
What do you do to change that? What do you do to
well, I think the obvious one is write under a pen name and don't tell them.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. If you really are bothered, if you're really bothered about it.
And I also think we put too much expectation on other people actually caring about what we publish. And you see that time and again, that people are very disappointed by the lack of kind of family support, or the lack of friends, or whatever, or they don't, they say, oh yeah, I'll read it and I'll leave a review, and they don't. Like, I think it's better to go in with zero expectations, that actually they care about you as a person, but they don't actually, most people don't get the whole book thing. And most, they just don't.
And it's always strange to me, the people who I thought would read my book didn't, and these random people who I wasn't expecting to read it come up to me and like, oh, I totally read your book, and I'm like, really? That's just random. Like, it's never who you expect, and it's and I don't expect people. In fact, I don't really want people to go and review my book on Amazon who are like my Aunt Betty, who never reads a book except for thrillers,
or my neighbour's best friend's mother,
and then suddenly she's reviewing. It's all the wrong people anyway. So not worrying about what friends and family think is probably a good piece of advice.
That's a tough one to get over, though. Like, that's how we roll. We worry about what people think about us. We worry about, I mean, that's just part of who we are. It's something I've never worried about with my writing, but in life, constantly.
I think you're kind of exposing something about yourself, aren't you, though, in any kind of writing, even if it's, if it's something completely commercially thriller or whatever. There's something in there that's a little exposing about how you think or how you feel as the writer, and it's quite exposing, I think, to how will other people judge
There's nothing
me.
worse. There's nothing worse than getting a negative email or a negative comment, or someone saying to you, oh, did you think about doing this in your book, or I didn't like that part of your book, and I'm just like wanting to reach across and just smash my fist into their nose. But you know what, I don't, because that's their choice, and it's my choice to put it out there in the world for everyone to read. So if I'm going to do that, I have to understand that's going to happen.
But it's a hard point to get to that choice for some people.
So this is about vulnerability, right? So this is about, and for me, this is a big one, because it's a fear of being vulnerable, and I hate being vulnerable, but this is something I'm working on at the moment, and it's Brene Brown talks about it. And she basically says that if you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable, then there's no intimacy. So if you can't be vulnerable with someone, you can't be intimate with them. And I don't mean intimate as in sexy times. I mean intimate as in I mean intimate as in close, as in it being people that you know and love and be really close to them. If you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable around them, admit your mistakes, do say things that you feel uncomfortable saying. I don't know, like you have to kind of put yourself out there, and it's actually it's hard, but it's like it's almost what you have to do to kind of get out there in the world. You should, if you haven't already, check out Brene Brown. It's really interesting just reading this
one
stuff.
side of it. A lot of us are scared. I think humans on the whole are scared of being judged, and so those people that you're thinking about, that they might not even be close to you, but you don't want to hear it. You don't want to have them look at you in a different way, or
but you have to realize that sometimes the person that's judging you the most is yourself. And those people that you think are judging you might not be judging you. It's just how you are thinking about it, as you're assuming they're going to judge you in the same way that you might judge them if they did. You know what I mean? Like it's a very vicious circle.
Developing a thick skin and being accepting of that fact, that doesn't just happen. That's something that you have to work on.
Exactly.
And it's acceptance and acknowledgement, like and that's for me, if something bad's happening or someone's coming at me and that, I'm just like blah, 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 I'm trying to talk my way out of it. And half the time what you should do is you should just stop and go, actually, dude, you could be right. Accept it, don't try to fix it, and just move on. And for me, I'm just like constantly, like Blake will say something to my husband, or say something to me, and I'm just trying to make it all right, and blah, 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 but now I just sort of like go, actually, rant or do what you need to do, and understand that this is an issue, and the acceptance for me is a big thing I'm working on, and accountability and things like that. I don't have to like it, But
No.
No.
And I'd also like to point out though, like as Wendy, you've got something that's like 40 plus books still, and you're not immune to the negative comments or the negative reviews. It's not, you know, yes, as Sher says, you develop a thicker skin, but but if you was untouched by anything outside, I don't think you would be a very good writer, because I think a lot of what it makes writing is that you're quite a sensitive, vulnerable kind of person anyway, you know, so it's kind of a bit of a catch-22,
I would hate to turn
isn't it?
around and be arrogant about it, you know what I mean? But at the same time, as someone's saying to me, oh, did you think about, you know, changing who to do? And I'm thinking, dude, in my head, I'm like, dude, shut up. You know, you don't know squat. This is my book. This is but that's okay. You know, like they might be right. You know, every time an edit comes in with a million issues on it, I'm just like, what does she know? You know, curl into the fetal position with a bar of chocolate, but
and then change it.
And then change it. You know, like, and that's what I'm saying. That's part of the acknowledgement, right? You've got to acknowledge what's stopping you and what's blocking you.
Yeah.
And then go, right, well, this is what's happening. Why is it happening, and how do I fix it?
Yeah.
And that's something that I've always tried to do as much as I can, and things that I'm scared of. You know,
it takes a lot of work to kind of be confident enough to say this other person can have their opinion and it doesn't have to affect me. And there's a lot of that going around in the world at the moment, where it's like you have to try and force everyone to have exactly the same opinion as you.
Exactly.
So actually it's I don't know, I just think that that's something we should work on. That's like, we have our opinion and that's amazing, and they have their opinion and that's fine too. Like, doesn't have to affect either of us.
Undoubtedly we're right, but
well, clearly we think we're right ourselves, but
they're allowed
to have their own opinion, you know. And that's
but getting back to Lane, Lane's issue with having the fear of taking the first step, I think that it you know, what you need to do is write a plan, and you need to write some lists, and you need to go, these are the steps I need to take to do what I need to do. There is no finite date, because that might be the pressure trigger as well, you know, and just work your way through it. Let's face it, if you've written a book, you can master publishing. Because the book is the tough stuff, right?
Look, I just
Lane is not fighting. That's the thing. So Lane is
right, but why is he not fighting? Because we think he's got a fear of the next step. So
definitely, I think defining what the fear is goes a huge way, if you can. I mean, that requires quite a lot of self-analysis that you may or may not see clearly, and it's like an onion. You might think, oh, it's what other people will think. But then you take that layer off and it's actually the fear of being rejected, and then take that layer off and there's all kinds of things underneath it. But at least try and get a handle on one of them. And just for the steps, you go and listen to the Spa Girls podcast, 7 Simple Steps to Self-Publishing, and there you go. Boom, just like that. We've told you what you have to do. Just saying.
And decide which person you are. Are you the person that needs a carrot, or are you the person that needs a stick?
Yes.
You know, perhaps you actually do need to have a deadline. You do need to have a date when you're going to press publish, because it will never happen.
Yeah.
It's when you punish yourself if you don't make the
being beaten.
So same and actually the same tools that we talked about for Mindy to actually finish something, the accountability, the, you know, all the rest, the setting the deadlines, all that kind of stuff can also work for Lane.
Yes.
Well, they do. I mean, the article did actually say that both of them come down to maybe a fear of not being good enough.
Yeah.
So it's wherever you're stopping yourself, there's that kind of fear in the middle that it's like, you know. And I think it's that fixed mindset saying, if I'm not good now, I'm never going to be good. And not, and even if it's, and it can not even be true. It could be amazing, you know, like it doesn't have to be that it's not good. It's just, that's your fear. It's your brain, your subconscious telling you that because you're afraid and it's new.
Do you think that also that's because, like, so Lane goes to work maybe and he does a 9-to-5 job and he has no issues doing it. But this book is something he's so passionate about. It's something he wants to succeed at. So that's the block. Whereas the work, doesn't block him and the everyday things he does in life because they're not as important to him as
Absolutely.
this, you know.
So that's kind of our next, because we should probably move on actually, because we had these other couple of authors. So let's call the first author.
So now we're moving away from that
But-
book. We're riffing off that.
Yeah, we're riffing off the podcast and moving on to some other fears or other scared writers. And I'm going to call this one Xanthi. Xanthi. I don't even know if that is how you say that name. It's Xanthe. But anyway, Xanthi.
Do we want to use a name we don't know how to pronounce?
I'm just going to call it Xanthi. It's fine. We're done.
So Xanthi,
decision made.
Right.
Xanthi is scared of success. That's what she's. She's a little bit of maybe Lane and Mindy, but she's also what Wendy was just talking about. She knows how to do her day job. She's amazing at her day job, and she's got this beautiful book that she's writing on her spare time, and she's faffing around on it. But she's scared of success. And what does that mean to us? What does scared of success mean?
I think maybe it was going to take you away from your family or your friends because you're suddenly going to be popular in whatever that is, and they might not appreciate that. You're gonna feel guilty, and that's a huge part of being successful, isn't it? Feeling guilty.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And changing dynamics too, right? So if you were always the one who was known for this over here in the corner, you were the one that always, organized the Friday gets-togethers with all the drinks with all your friends, and then now you're writing this book and you can't do that. There's things that happen. There's changing dynamics. Your friends are not going to be as happy with you maybe, or you're worried that they might not be happy with you, or maybe you're worried that they won't like you anymore if you're not organizing the Friday night drinks, or what there's all these kind of weird little stories that we tell ourselves about what it might mean
and yet if you actually turn around and say to your friends, this is the reason I'm not doing Friday night drinks, they would turn around and go, wow, that is amazing, get out there, Xanthia or Xanthi or whatever you're called, exactly. and write that book, we want to read it. So don't give the fear the power, voice the fear, and then it diminishes slightly.
It's like that
manifesting.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of worrying about things happening before they're actually happening. Like, so you worry twice. Isn't that the saying? She's got it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my husband says. It's actually very, very true. It's very hard to do. But it's actually very, very true. Because your one friend, Jemima,
as in bottle duck.
Yeah, she is actually a bit of a cow.
Yeah.
And for a fact that she's going to be so jealous. I'm here to tell you, she is not your friend.
you listen to that girl.
But there's also, and I mean, this is, it was something that we heard a lot in the early days, and I'm talking 90s, and you'd have particularly Harlequin authors and editors visiting conferences, and a lot of them talked about for women to be prepared. Now in those days, and it was only 20 years ago, but it was a while ago, that often marriages didn't last if the woman became particularly popular publishing, or became particularly successful, and that often affected marriages and relationships, and it can do, because it goes back to that dynamic. And so I think that is a message that probably isn't talked about as much now, because I think it's much more, you see women of all stripes embracing. You hope we've moved on, but I think it talks about those changing those roles, and people like you have you in your role, and that's your job, and that's what you do, not necessarily your work, but that's your how you serve them, if you like, or how you serve your family, or how you serve your community. You step out of that into something else, and that does upset the dynamic, And the other thing I think too, people, yes, your real friends do want to cheer you on, but also sometimes if you're the one doing the changing, if you're gone from your, going out to the pub every Thursday, Friday and Saturday night back in the, the BC days, before COVID days, and suddenly you're staying in and doing your writing, that's quite confronting to people when they see you following a dream. That's quite confronting, because most people have got their own ones that they're not And so that can really upset the apple cart as well.
It's not even that it's confronting. It's like you're messing up their plans.
Yes.
Them change when they don't want to. They want to still go out.
You're
That's not what I want.
You're holding up a mirror and they don't like what they see.
Yeah.
No, but not even that. You're just messing with, like it's not a mirror for them to look at. Or not that they're jealous of what you're doing or jealous of following your dreams. It's like you're supposed to be going out with them every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night because that's what you guys do and that's your thing.
So there's a role thing, but I also think
I'm not saying that
beyond that, there is also something confronting. I think it's within all of us in a way that you look at somebody else doing something amazing and you just think, like you do. You have that moment of. I don't know how to describe it. And so maybe the fear,
how dare you be a success?
Yeah. So I think for Xanthi, maybe she doesn't want people to kind of. I don't know. Yeah, it's quite scary that.
Yeah, change is scary, right?
Yeah,
change is very scary.
If you want more, to be more, if what you're doing isn't enough, or you just want to extend yourself, then you can't let other people define you in that way. Because what if the shoe was on the other foot? Would you say to them, "Don't do that," because that will affect my relationship with you or my life with you? If you were a good friend, you would say, "Go for it." Let me. How can I support you?
That's right. That's
how it's supposed to be, really, in the perfect world.
And that's what Jasper would say. Jasper's that friend.
I thought it was Jemima. Jemima.
And Jasper would say,
Jasper's the other friend.
I support you. Go out and do it. And those are the friends you want. And those are the people that understand. The others don't understand, but there will always be a Jasper. And that's the key here. They're not all Xanthis and Jemimas and Mindy's and like, there are Jaspers too, and Jaspers are supportive, and we want those people. And
if you got horrible friends and they all say mean things, what are you going to do? You just have to find new friends.
New friends. Yeah.
Okay, so I've got another one: the fear of, or someone who's scared to make the writing important. I think these all kind of mingle in a little bit. Like,
I do. I think they are.
That sounds very similar.
Yeah. So like it's and this was sort of the family thing, the changing dynamics, but also it could be other things. It's like maybe the writing is always just at the bottom of your priorities list. Like maybe there's always something else that comes up, like someone invites you to go out for the pub, or my child needs me for this, or
the day job.
I feel like
I have to go wash my hair,
or
I have to go do the garden, and it's just not prioritized.
But that's not wanting the more. That's wanting the status quo, isn't it? So that's not really wanting to push yourself. I think if you allow all of that to happen, and it's very easy to do that. Another word for it is procrastination. But like if you don't really want it bad enough, you will always find an excuse not to do it.
I feel like this is Mindy's close twin sister, because it's kind of two edges of the same. No,
Mandy needs a Jasper though.
Yeah, but Mandy needs to figure out whether she really wants to write. I mean, that's the thing, right? Maybe you like the idea of writing.
You want to have written.
You want to have written, but the actual writing is not. The
Virgo in me wants to get down to the nuts and bolts and say, stop this, dude. Like in my head, I'm just screaming, pick up your computer and write, but that's not easy for some people. I get that, and everyone is listening to a voice other people are saying to them, and there's peer pressure, and there's this and there's that, but prioritize it, find the time, get up in the morning,
even just have a really long hard look and just say, do I really want to be a writer? Because it just seems like, and I know someone who recently did this, she just went, you know what, don't want to do this anymore. I'm not a writer. It's hard. I'm not doing it. I'm finding reasons not to do it. I'm washing my hair instead of going and tapping out some words in the, it's maybe,
okay, but that's okay. It's okay to revisit your dreams, particularly if it's something that you've held on to a long time, and maybe the same motivation isn't there.
You should do.
Because it's quite frustrating, and it's actually quite draining having this thing on your back constantly saying you should be writing, you should be writing, you should be writing, and you kind of if you don't have the motivation and the drive to make it happen, then that's just a lot of negative crap just sitting in your back of your brain.
And it becomes harder and harder.
And that's in everything in life, right? Not just writing. Like I want to learn to play the piano and still haven't done it. I've been talking about it for 4 years.
exactly. Yeah.
I bought a guitar and never learned to use it.
Exactly. Look at us. See,
I had lessons.
I gave that guitar away a year ago to the school after having it since I was.
Now you want to do the lessons?
No, well, you kind of, but no. But I had that guitar for all these years, and I never ever once picked it up, and and it was carrying it. So I said, no, I don't want to learn the guitar anymore.
I bought from a TV ad one of those weighted hula hoops. They came with weights, and they're really heavy, and then they've got these awful ridgy things. So you had to put like a beach towel around your waist to do the hula hoop, but it was gonna basically hula hoop away the fat around your middle, right? This is the thing.
Yeah.
How long ago was this?
Now, it's really
When was
pretty.
this?
It's in rainbow colours. It's heavy as, man.
You still got it?
I downloaded the videos. I have the woman's thing on my bookmarks to go and see more classes and that kind of thing of this weighted hula hoop. And then I had it, so I took it out once and put it together, but it was too big. So then I had to unscrew it all again. But while it was out, it was a really handy drying frame for clothes, earring frame. And so I used it twice, but it really hurt. Like, it really hurt.
Oh my God.
Man, it hurt so bad.
Can I just say, every time you think about buying something now, you have to ask us.
But here's the thing. I didn't like it. It hurt. It took me 4 years to get rid of it. I had it in the box because at some point it was going to miraculously be easier to use, and I was going to be that person on that thing that had just literally hula hooped the fat away from my
See, that
waist.
sounds amazing, doesn't it? Hula hooping the fat away. Just seems like it's going to be easy.
I know.
Doesn't
What
it?
if it's painful? I mean,
What?
you know,
But
It
then
sounds easy. Hula hooping. That's
you
so
learn to skip with something that's got tacks attached to
here's
it or
the
barbed
thing.
wire. It's like,
Here's the
no.
thing. It's meant
What
to
is
be
the matter with
painful.
you people?
It's meant to be
No
painful
one can
because
hula
it's
hoop
good for
fat
you.
away. Get it. Bloody
So then,
life.
I went to sites where they
Jumping
talked
up.
about the pain of hula hooping, and they're like, "No, but I've overcome the pain." I thought, "Shit, I can do this.
It's
I can do
not
this."
possible to hula hoop the fat away.
I think we've digressed. I really do think we've lost it. We've totally lost it today.
What I want to say
But
is,
tying it
point-
back. The point
oh, please
is,
tie it back.
let it go. Like,
Come on.
don't spend it 4 years if it's causing you pain.
The cold doesn't bother me.
And you've got this
yet.
unrealistic expectation, like, it's okay to let it go. And you know what? If I had have let that hula hoop go and I was meant to do that hula hoop, it would have come back to me, and it hasn't.
We'll put a note. I'll
think
put a
that's a
link in the show
boomerang.
notes where you can buy the hula hoop just in case you want a hula hoop to fat away.
Oh
Just
my
like Sharp.
goodness.
But I
Oh,
think, and I think that's the point. It's just it's okay to say
No.
maybe just say
If
no.
something seems unreal, it is. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
But
come on, people.
but I think if the writing isn't, I mean, not that it should be fun all the time, and writing is hard, but that's maybe the point. It's like if
But
you're
there's got
not
to be something
dedicated,
you enjoy about the process,
Yeah,
then, because
yeah.
you know what, self-publishing is tough,
Yeah,
and
real tough.
actually, if there isn't aspects of it that you really enjoy,
Yeah.
I would really question your
Question
life
it.
choices.
But
If it's
also
not your
writing.
passion. If it's not your
Writing is
passion. Yeah.
hard work.
Yeah.
Like, it's wonderful and it's fulfilling and, you know, and stuff like that. But there are parts of it that really suck,
So,
you know.
we're really giving them the
Sometimes
motivational
I think-
speech here today,
I
aren't we?
think that's good.
I'm
This is
talking
what
40
people
books
need.
down, you know, like I
Yeah.
get to the middle of a book, which is where I'm at now. And I'm just like, why can't these characters write their own book? You know, like, I'm just like, you know what I mean? But then I'll get to like 10,000 to go and I'm like, man, this is good. I love this stuff,
Yeah.
you know?
And then
Yeah.
she finishes it, and then she
then she
goes,
hates
"That's
it.
the biggest pile
Yeah.
of crap
Yeah.
that anybody's ever written."
We know
Every
Wendy's
single
processes.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every
Mr. V
single
always
one.
oh,
turns
Wendy's
around and
process is better
the
than
hubs-
she does.
The hub
So-
goes, oh,
but
we're
do
at
you ever-
that stage.
Do you ever think to yourself, man, there must be an easy way to make money, right? Like I do sometimes. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I could go out there and get a normal job and just,
Mhm.
that would be so much easier than what I'm doing. So I just
Exactly,
think,
just being able to just shut off. Like I look at my
Yeah.
husband sitting there watching TV and I'm just like, you're a bastard. Like, because quite frankly, I can't do that.
I fully get that. I'm like,
see, Treadles,
mental
you
note to
understand?
self.
Yeah, I
to put
understand.
explicit
Share.
rating on this one.
You know, like you understand, Cher, right? We sit there at night and they're just like sitting there eating their snacks and drinking their coffee with their feet up, you know, and I'm just like, dude, I'm working here, you know, like my mind's just ticking over. And
But can I just say, as somebody that's been self-employed for decades, that is the nature of the beast, regardless of whether it's writing or not. You're effectively a self-employed business person. You're an entrepreneur. You never switch off. You
having
just
said
don't.
that, when he gets up in the morning and trudges his way out in the dark and goes bye, and I'm like, oh, have a good day, honey.
So, you know, but the point is not that it's
swings and roundabouts.
You shouldn't do it. It's just that you have to have a certain amount of motivation. You need to look at yourself closely to see if you have that motivation, because if you've been trying for 10 years and you haven't been able to find the motivation, you're still 3 chapters in, maybe that motivation is never coming. Or you need to make some changes to find the motivation. Like just all I'm saying is just have a look at the situation, because if you've been doing it for that long, maybe there's something that needs to change.
And there's highs and lows with this, just like anything else. You know, it's not all low and it's not all high. It's up and down.
And I'd like to say that you get to choose your hours. You get to choose when you work. So if you want to be like Wendy and work every night, then that's fine, but it doesn't have to be like
no, exactly.
I mean, I don't work every night because child, but so we've got one more that we wrote down, which I kind of feel we've covered a little bit. It's not so separate, but it's fear of self-publishing itself. So someone who's scared to self-publish.
That is probably also part of
lanes. Yeah.
His was just a general, there's all this crappy stuff. And we were talking specifically, like, say, maybe self-publishing, like, and that because you had to learn the technology, you had to, and also there's some validation with maybe being a traditionally published author that you don't get when you're self-publishing. And it's just all too much to learn, and maybe it's overwhelming in that way. So it was maybe a subset of lane in some ways, like just specific to self-publishing.
What's that?
Lenetta, like there's a Mandy, there's now a Lenetta. The names, I totally remember who we should have like a little like a character sheet at the bottom of the show notes and talk about who each person was.
This is Shane, by the way.
Shane.
This is Lane's brother Shane, who is scared of
self-publishing.
And look, it is overwhelming. There's no two ways about it. We wrote the book on overwhelming. But you know what? If you're listening to this, then you've also got 287 other episodes to listen to where we talk about it. And again, going back to the tips of how to finish a book, it's accountability, it's setting yourself deadlines, and it's actually probably in this one, it would be working with some other people, you know, that can help a lot, like encouraging each other along
or asking for help, you know, or doing courses, or even just sometimes changing your mindset, just saying, if you're telling yourself that you don't get it and it's all too hard and technology is too difficult and I'm never going to do this, well then you're right.
I think a lot of it is mindset on this one, and I see a lot of, over the years I've seen a lot of people that have been through the traditional system that have been completely spooked by the idea of self-publishing, leaving aside all the validation and all that kind of stuff, but the physical tasks that are needed to self-publish have been blown up to such an extent that they're this insurmountable mountain. And I'm when I say blown up, that either in their minds, or frankly, there's been people from the traditional industry that have told them, you know, you're going to have to do it all yourself if you go down that way. It's the mystique of what the traditional publishing is doing. They've been sold a bill of goods that makes it really tough.
What you need to do is just listen to us. Professionals, consummate professionals who know everything.
Consummate professionals, like, you know, like, and we
never have
never
jokes,
digress
never swear,
into
you know,
hula
like
hoops.
I feel like the lesson is, if we can do it, anybody can do it.
And that might be a really good lesson to take away from this episode.
But we did it together. We made mistakes together.
It is.
You know,
it's true.
And we've made so many mistakes, but you just have to move on and keep going.
Who's made mistakes? We haven't made mistakes.
You've made mistakes, buddy. Don't even try to pretend that you've never made a mistake.
Many of them, and continue to do so daily.
Yes, exactly.
And that's
And
cool,
I'm
because
okay
we're
with that.
learning. We're learning. We're figuring it out. We're not
Yeah.
too stressed about.
Okay.
Along with you.
I think we've scared them enough, like today.
Well, this,
Yeah.
I don't wanna
this has
scare
been
you.
another On the Couch with the Spa Girls episode.
Yeah.
But we haven't had one for a while.
Yeah.
And we normally get very good feedback. So look, if you've got any other character,
Yeah,
like
I was going
any
to say, if you're
avatars
not a
for
Mindy,
fears,
Mandy, Lane,
yeah,
that's
Mindy,
the-
Mandy, Lane,
Xanthi.
Shane, Dane.
Xanthi, Shane.
if you're a different fear,
That's okay
Barbara,
too. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
come
okay.
join us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Come
come
with
join
us.
us in the crazy
Yeah.
town.
Join us. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So that sounds perfect. So where can we be found, Shah?
We can be found at spargirlspodcast.com, and I'm going to put the show notes in there. I'm literally going to stop this right now and write them up with all the links to what we've talked about, whether it's Brené Brown, the blog post, and any other tidbits that we have found. And yeah, come and comment on our Facebook page if you've got any other things to add on this. I think it's a topic that isn't ever resolved, really. It's just something that we can all learn a bit more about. So be gentle with yourselves.
Yeah,
Very
that's
good.
very true.
And maybe
Awesome.
come watch us on YouTube, because this one might be a good one
Worth
too.
a watch.
I feel like I should have had my hula hoop as like don't do
Just
this.
don't,
Is
yeah.
it? But
Just
It's not
I'm
don't
kinda
try
like
this at home.
Okay, people, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up. There we go.
Thanks for listening.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Well.